Good evening. So, I've started recording this session. This session is just a session for us to learn the basics of interviewing and winning interviews. We know that interviewing, like every other thing, is a skill, right? So it's not something you just take for casual, you just treat casually, right? Even though we have technical skills, it's important for us to be ready to be able to communicate about technical skills, communicate to stakeholders that yes, we have what it takes to do the job, and that's why we're on this call. Last week we talked about AI, and last month I talked about AI. Next month as well, we're talking about AI as well. But in between having knowledge about AI, about engineering, analysis, and all that, we want to be sure that everybody has the required skills to win interviews, and that's why we're here. And on this session, Babayemi Oluwaferanmi will be speaking to us. He's within the YDP community, he's a data engineer, but he also has his experience in speaking in interviews and stuff around the sessions. When I saw his post on Twitter about culture fit interview, it was really a great expose. So I think after this session, I encourage us to follow him on Twitter and LinkedIn, where he frequently shares content around interviews and preparing for interviews. So at this moment, I'll hand off to Babayemi. She's going to take the floor, and then as we have questions, you can put questions in the chat. And yeah, over to you, Babayemi.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Slide should be coming on now. And please just let me know when you can see my slide.
Yes, I can see now.
Okay, just for visual sake, right? For people to know who is even talking to them. My name is Babayemi Oluwaferanmi, right? On YouTube, it's Oluwaferanmi Babayemi. On Twitter, you can see Ferranmi_Babs, right? And I am not an HR professional. I am not an HR professional, although I had a stint there very in some kind of past life, but that's all about it. I'm a data engineer, right? That's what I do full time. But I share this vision of helping people set their footing or have people helping people transition into career, especially entry level folks, right? And where I can, I just try to help. And so I try to do research about interviews, how to waste interviews and all of that, because I myself I'm always on the move, right? Trying to get gigs. And one of the things you do as technical people is that you have to do a lot of interviews. There's technical interview, there's culture interview, and all of those kinds of interviews. So that's why I'm in a position like this. And for someone that is technical, I think it will also be another advantage to speak to technical people, including because I've been on both ends of the table. The person that was interviewing someone and the person that was being interviewed from a technical perspective. So I think I might be able to share similar experiences, right? So yeah, and thank you very much, David, for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. So yeah, let's go in. So strategies for winning interviews, and I'll be speaking specifically to technical roles, except otherwise, because I know the people that should be on. Oh, that's NEPA. Please, one sec. Let me just put on my inverter.
All right, for those just coming in, our speaker is on the call. She just stepped away for a minute or two due to technical challenges. So we're here and we're live. There's no network, there's no issue. So you'll join us in a second. All right, no problem.
Yeah, thank you. As we all know, we live in Nigeria, so let's just so let's just start, right? And strategies for winning interview. I think the first thing about the whole strategies for winning interview guide for technical roles, and I'll be speaking technically, right? Because the people I expect to be on the call, maybe folks in the data space, really, data analysts, data engineers, data governance specialists, BI specialists, AI machine learning guys, people who use data for one or two things in their daily days, well, daily work, right? And so I'll be speaking technically towards that side. And I think for me, the first thing would really be about what is an interview. And I'll just start with a personal experience, right? Um, I had this interview that I usually I say usually that I attended, right? It was even a couple of months ago, right? And we had the conversation, hey, what do you do? You've seen my CV, blah blah blah. And then the guy goes, what can you offer us? And I'm like, okay, I'm coming in as a data engineer. This is what I do. These are the stacks I use. This is my GitHub portfolio. These are the things I can do for you. Then the guy goes, we have someone doing all of these things. And I go, then if you need a D, then it means that the person is not enough or something. And from there, then the interviewer was like, okay, I love how you're speaking. It seems you're making this interactive, because I was actually asking him questions about what they do. If you say someone does this for you already, then essentially, what do you need me to do? The reason I'm starting with that is that many of us treat interview as an interrogation, right? You treat interview as a do or die affair. You treat interview like it's an investigation for them, looking at what they will pin on your head. And I think that is I think it's like one of the things that is responsible for many people failing interviews, right? Because you're coming and you're saying, God, where will they catch me? No, nobody's catching you. Everybody wants to offer service to themselves. You want to offer service to the company, then the company wants to offer service to you, right? Maybe in terms of payment or stocks or whatever, right? So the first thing is that you have to treat every interview as a conversation. Interview earlier on, when David was mentioning a culture fit interview thread I wrote on Twitter, I was saying that, see, interview is it happens in such a way that the two people on the table want to know about each other. You want to know about the firm. The people hiring you want to know what you can do with the firm. And then it's a conversation, because whenever you get into the organization, they are not going to be interrogating you again. It's about helping you achieve what you want to achieve. They shouldn't, a proper company shouldn't even leave you to achieve what you want to achieve. Everybody wants to rally around, right? Such that you can achieve what you want to achieve and then move the company forward. So first things first, interview is a conversation. It's a situation where you're coming to say that this is what I can do, this is what I have done, and this is what I can try to do for you guys. So it is not in any way some sort of interrogation. And when you have this mindset, first of all, you are not going in such a way that you're not saying, you're not going with a mindset of fear, right? You're not going with a mindset of desperation. You're going with a mindset of, we want to have a conversation. There are a lot of interviews that I try to, if depending on of course, on the mood of whoever is interviewing me, you want to put in a bit of joke. Depending on the mood of the person, there are opportunities to even speak about football, to speak about other things that are of interest. Essentially, the point is that the other person on the table needs you. You also need the other person, and so the person is not trying actively to scare you away. Right. When this particularly is in play and it settles that it's a conversation you want to have with whoever is on the other end of the table, you are able to avoid pressure, you're able to avoid duress, you're able to articulate yourself clearly. Essentially, it's just the beginning of doing everything right. The moment this particular mindset is not there, the moment the opposite of this mindset is there, I think you're going to do everything wrong from there, because you're going to be looking way over your head. And again, just to entry level guys, right? I don't know if there's any entry level on the call, but I like speaking to entry level guys. I want to say that, see, when you're coming into the firm as a, say, junior dev or junior this or junior that, right? We know that you are just learning. To be honest, we know that. See, maybe your first 3 months or your first 6 months, we are literally going to be holding your hands and saying, okay, this SQL, this is not how you write something for production grade pipelines. When you want to deploy, these are not the things to do. This might be seemingly correct for your small GitHub portfolio, but this is not correct here. This is not correct here. This is best practice. This is best practice. We know that. So when you're in an interview, you do not have to feel like you do not know anything. There is a reason why it's called junior developer, or there is a reason why it's called junior data scientist or junior whatever. There is a reason why. So you go there once you know that you've learned the things that you have to learn, which we'll get to later. You need to go there as someone that can offer value, because of course I don't think you should even be applying to any job if you can offer value for the employer, right? So you want to go there as someone who, for your level of understanding, you know you've done what you're meant to do, and then you want to have a conversation. I mean, on one of the interviews, the person was saying that he will use pandas for a particular thing. I'm saying, see, we can use polars. Don't you think that polars can work here? It's going to be faster based on the number of data sets we have. And I was like, oh, well, maybe that makes sense, but how does that work under the hood? How does I mean, it's really a conversation. You shouldn't go there with a defeatist mindset. Again, I'm stressing this. I've spent like 10 minutes on this, and I think it is very, very important, because for every interview I have attended, man, most of the time I get the gig. I go there with the mindset of not so much trying to impress, but so much trying to have a conversation with whoever is on the table. Whether they are three, whether they are four, whether it's one person, I want to make sure that I'm establishing that conversation, that rapport. In fact, there are times when, of course, I don't even know answers to questions. I'm going to give an attempt while I know that, okay, maybe this is not the full answer, but I'm going to give an attempt while still establishing that conversational factor in that interview, right? And I think it is very, very important. If you have an interview tomorrow, nobody's going to beat you. Nobody is going to flog you, whatever. Everybody is going to want to know how good you are, or want to know what you bring to the table, right? So that's the first thing. Interview is a conversation. That is my definition of interview. I don't have all these dictionary definition. I just wrote it as I would eventually do or teach myself if I'm eventually going for an interview. So let's go to the strategies, right? I think I have some 5 or 6 here, right? And we'll be taking each of these one by one, right? And the first thing is competence, right? You see, we are technical people. It's not like we do HR, or we do HSC, or we do any of these things. Our work is hands-on. What's the English? You can talk yourself out of your job, right? You can't talk yourself out of your job. At the end of the day, people want to see the dashboard, right? People want to make sure that if they are checking something, the pipeline is not breaking when they are presenting to the board of trustees, right? People want to ensure that the models are ethical enough. And these things are not something you write down. These things are the things that people see at the end of your. They see your results. Like, your results are tangible. You can't blame any other person. It is the work that you do that will keep following you, right? So you can't speak it out. And the first strategy for me always when it comes to any interview is that, do you know your craft? And when I mean know your craft, do you understand how it works, right? We are technical folks. Some of us even build SLMs, small language models, right? Some of us know how all these things work behind the scenes, RAG and AI and all of those things. So we're used to it. We use it to write code, right? Which is very good. It makes make work insanely fast, right? If you're on Twitter, right? There was this occurrence, I think this past week, right? You must have heard of the old Beam AI that was built for the church, right? If a pastor is preaching, if he just mentions the Bible verse, then he pulls it up and all of that. And then I came. Was it yesterday? I came, and then somebody said he's vibe coded this and is going to open source it for them to improve it. Just like that. The guy that built Beam built it for like 8 months, and then somebody vibe coded that stuff in like 1 week. So we know that anyone these days can write code, but do you understand the engineering principles behind it, right? I do data engineering, so I write a lot of PySpark. Why do you prefer PySpark to Python, right? Why don't you use the same Python for this, right? Why would you rather use DBT for your transformation rather than pure Python, right? Why are you choosing Databricks ahead of Snowflake? Or, reasons why certain decisions are made. That's how you get to know your craft. Understanding of the of the reason why certain things are done, right? If eventually you're picking this kind of architecture for this data project, why are you picking this? Can you speak through it? Do you have an understanding of it? For those that are into maybe data governance, why, how do we prioritize our role-based access, right? What's the level of security? Are we doing data at rest? Are you doing encryption at rest? All of those things, why do we have to do them, right? If disaster recovery, all of those things. And knowing your craft currently, it's about understanding the engineering system behind whatever you're doing. It is not the code. See, all of us have been writing code. Everybody writes code now. Everybody writes code. To be honest, if you have enough money, you can vibe code anything, right? Of course, maybe apart from fintech apps, because there will always be security issues on that one. You have to be a very strong engineer to do that. But I mean, on other things that do not really involve money, you can really code it through, right? So yeah, with enough money, so you can like code it through, right? So, but do you understand why this is this, why that is that, right? And I think it is important. And you know how you know those things? You read a lot. You read from people who have done this. I remember that I was having issues with networking. For one reason or the other, networking wasn't just connecting itself in my head. I read this part, I read that part, subnet, vnet, this one. And I do a lot of cloud analytics in where I work. And I'm like, what's happening? And I think it's on data engineering group or YDP group. I can't even remember. Somebody dropped a blog about how they used their house Wi-Fi to explain cloud networking and networking in general. And that was it for me. That was what gave me a very good understanding of networking. Right. So I've been working with networking before. Of course, I've had to use it before, but that blog just opened things up. Right. So there are a lot of people who write a lot of things. I think that reading should like be compulsory for all of us when it comes to mastering our craft in data. Right. Read blogs, watch YouTube videos. There is this guy that I watch a lot of his YouTube videos. I can't remember his name, Codex Yusuf or something, or Code U or something. It's very good. It's very good. So I think reading books, get technical books. I know that getting the hard copy is crazy in Nigeria. You might not be able to lay your hands on one, but I think if you download online, and one thing one of my mentors told me was to be reading published papers, especially if you're into AI. I remembered this particular one that he made compulsory for me to read. Attention Attention Engineers or something. I can't remember the exact title again, but if I remember, I can drop it on the group. So yes, you have to know your craft because everything starts from you knowing your craft. Everything starts from you knowing your craft. The second thing is, can you speak to the things happening? Things are happening so fast, so fast, right? That you can get lost in the process, right? But I think one of the things people want to know is how much you're up to date with what's happening in your field, especially in the data space, right? Um, I remembered before I started using I use a lot of Databricks now. In fact, um, I am I'm DE certified on I'm Databricks certified, right? Databricks data engineer. So I remember before using that, we're always writing quite a number of things in Python, right? And pure Spark, right? You're going to write. Then our boss came in and said, "See, we are moving things to this particular project is on is on cloud, right? The client would want us to put everything on cloud and all of that." And then Databricks was mentioned. And I got to Databricks, I saw that you could literally like do everything on Databricks, right? But nobody knew Databricks amongst us. So one of us has to do it. So eventually go to, and I think it's one of the joys that I enjoy with this thing that you get your hands on a tool and you can use it to execute, right? Databricks, you can do ML there, you can do DE there, you can do data analysis. It's just so beautiful. And I started reading about it, and then I came to understand Lakehouse architecture, and they just even released their lake base now and all of those things. And it is to say that you have to know what's going on. And the way I know what's going on, for me, right? The way I know what's going on is this. I just follow many of these guys, Snowflakes, Databricks, whatever they are doing, because those guys, they literally, how do I say it? Dedicate an entire department to R&D, research and development, right? And so that's what they do. So if they are bringing out a new feature, I'm imagining that's what is going on generally in the field of data space, in the global field of data space. So I try to stay up to date with whatever they put on LinkedIn, whatever they send to my mail. I try to read from Bloomberg too. I try to read from all of these all of these sources, all of these tech news, right? I try to read from them to say that, okay, if this is the next line of action, I think this is where we are going. And the point is not even that you know everything. You just need to be able to say that, speak to some of the things that's currently happening. And because whatever is currently happening is an improvement on what has happened, at least majority of the time, say 80% of the time. It's an improvement of whatever has happened. But I need to put a caveat here. I think that as you're knowing the latest updates, we must never lose the foundations, because at the end of it all, it's the foundations that still makes everything stand, right? Cloud can come, this one can come, this one can come. It is the foundation of a data of a data ecosystem that still makes it stand. Your Python, your pure Python, your pure SQL, your Excel, your analytical thinking skills that we learned about since, your data modeling, those your star schema, Snowflake schema, those are the things that everything is resting on, right? And I think that's your database is your Linux, right? Your Docker, right? Those are the things that everything rests on. But as much as we are holding on to that, we should not stay at that level. We should pursue additional understanding about what's currently happening. And I think the next one, before we get into the meat of the discussion, is eloquence. But the reason I mentioned competence and trends and all of those things before mentioning eloquence is that eloquence is sweeter and is more beautiful when you know what you're talking about. I mean, when you have confidence, people say that even if you talk with confidence, people will say that people are still tempted to listen to you. But if you're in front of technical leaders and you're speaking with confidence and you're saying nonsense, they're going to call out your bullshit. And we all live in a technical world. We know how technical people treat non-technical people when it comes to understanding, right? And one thing is, when you're competent, the next thing, or when you're competent and you know what you're talking about, the next thing is your manner of articulation. It is very, very important. See, I can't overemphasize it. I stay in front of my mirror and I rehearse. Either I have interview or I do not have interviews, because I need to be able to speak very well. You should not be caught unprepared, right? I think that's the word, right? You always want to be able to explain things to people. It's also one of the reasons personally that I decided to start teaching Python. I decided to teach people data engineering, because I think that until I can teach people, I don't think I understand it very well. Because when you teach people, you have to lay things very clearly. And when you have to lay things very clearly, it forces you to think through everything you think you know, right? And when you also receive questions, then you're forced to think outside of the box, right? So I personally, that's why I started teaching. I was teaching Python. I really hope I can still do it again this year, because it's not looking like there's enough time, right? But again, eloquence is very, very important. When you can talk through the things that you know, when it's not just enough to know it. When it comes to interview, you need to be able to say it. So many firms, like we all know, they will not call you to come and do technical interview, like Moneypoint. They will not call you to come and write SQL code. They will not call you to come and write Python. They just want to understand something in your head space, how you think like an analytical person, how you think like a data person. They want, and it's at that point, your GitHub repo will not fix it for you. You can be able to speak through the projects that you've done, right? It will fix it for you. So this entails you not putting yourself under pressure. Again, it's a conversation, right? You're talking about the things you know, you're talking about the things you've heard, you're talking about the things that you've experienced, really. And you shouldn't just sweat it out. And I think the ways you can improve your speaking is, see, get in front of your mirror if you have mirror at home, right? Do some 5 or 10 minutes check, right? If someone says that explain partitioning for us, can you explain it? What are you going to say? If you don't know it, it's your cue to go and read about it, right? If someone says why SQL, if someone says what does DBT does, can you explain it? Why do we need DBT? At what point in the in data process do we need DBT, or do we need SQL, right? Or do we need Spark or something like that? If you can't explain it, it's your cue to say, okay, just pull up your phone, ask Gemini, ask Claude, ask ChatGPT, this. Teach me like 5 years old, like we all know, right? So I think it's important. It is very, very important. All your hard work you've pushed to your repo in GitHub can be washed away, because you can't speak to what you did. And when you can't speak to what you did, it looks like you didn't understand what you did. And I can easily assume that Claude built everything. You were just saying, agent, do this without asking anything from me. Just that's what I'm going to assume, right? When you can't even explain to me what you did here, what you did here, what you did here. So yeah, I think it is very, very important. Speak to your siblings. Give them list of questions in case they are not technical folks. Give them list of questions. Let them ask you. Speak to it. If you don't get it, it's not a big deal. The point is that you become good and good and good and good and good. And I think another final hack to speaking very well is listen to people who speak very well when it comes to technicals, right? Speak to people listen to people who speak very well. Watch YouTube videos of people who speak very well. Listen to podcasts. I remember on ML, the way I understood the back end of models, linear regression models, what happens on the back end, the mathematics that happens on the back end was, I think I had this podcast, I think it's ML Guide on Spotify. I was just going to be listening to it again and again and again and again and again and again. And then there was this course by Andrew Yang, right, on Coursera, right? So listen to them again and again and again and again and again. And you don't, before you know it, those things become essentially part of you, essentially, like really, really part of you. Then the next one will be the type of interviews. Now, all interviews are not the same, right? I just and I see this complaint all the time on Twitter, right? Why do I need to do 4 level assessment, this, that? Oh, to be honest, I don't like that stuff too. And then you finish it, they're telling you, hey, we can employ. What then did you allow me go through all of this, right? So, but doing 4 level of assessments means that there are different types of challenges through each of the assessments, right? Or through each of the stages, right? And there 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 is there are interviews called technical interviews. There are interviews called cultural fit interviews. There are interviews called competency-based interviews. Most of the time for us in like data field, they kind of merge both technical and competency-based, right? It's not really different. In other fields, they kind of separate it, right? Where they want to see how you think about this on competency-based, then technical interview you can write code. And I think even in some firms, they still separate it. But let me just go into it. Culture fit interviews. What's expected of you, really? I think that what's expected of you for culture-based interviews is your understanding of the firm. Now, when it comes to culture-based, say you want to interview with one of the big banks in the country, say Stanbic, right? Or no, say UBA. UBA they just graduated some wonderful folks just yesterday. So let's use UBA as an example. You're interviewing for UBA. What culture interview says is that you know my mission, you know my vision, and you know my core values. That's what cultural interview says, right? And then I can be able to deduce that the person I'm interviewing fits the culture of the firm. Culture of the firm means how the firm does, how the firm behaves, the values that the firm imbibes in their employee. If I see you outside, I can be able to say that this is where this person works, right? So Just like when you see UBA people, they are dropping the CMS, you see them on their white and red every time, right? You can say it's part of organizational culture. So if you're going to interview, if you're going for a cultural interview, you want to make sure that you know the vision, you know the mission, you know the core values. And when you're answering, your answers are tied to the values of the of the firm that is interviewing you. So for example, someone says, hey, why should we pick you? And I'm saying, okay, my values are leadership, and I know that one of the firms that develop the greatest leaders is United Bank of Africa. And coincidentally, going through I was going through your site, and I saw that one of the bank's foremost vision is to do this, is to do that, based on the values, and you're merging it to each other, right? And immediately, what you're telling the interviewer is that, okay, this guy seems to align with us. At the very least, he seems to align with us, even when he has not joined us. So that gives them a reason for them to think about you after you've left the room, because you related with them and they related with you. So if the values is integrity, you related with them. I mean, you even give examples, right, of where you were ethical, where you could have decided to do something else, but you were ethical, just to prove to them that, see, we are one person. And because we are one person, you should eventually bring me in, right? So that's culture interview, right? That's culture interview. I think I had an interview with one very big bank in the country. Um, and then I'm not going to mention the name of the bank, right? So the, I think they asked a question that why should we pick you? And I said, see, I have a lot of friends in different banking schools, right? But my friends that attended your banking school stood out to me. And the reason why they stood out to me was because when they came, everything about them became different, and they started observing the values of this firm, the values that I myself have tried to imbibe. And I just think that, see, this is the best place to work. See, I think that after that question, they asked me like one or two other questions, and I knew I was going to get it, although I later rejected it. But I knew I was going to get it because the man later told me that, see, I should reach out to my friends in the banking school, and then I should thank them because they are representing. No, David, I'm not lying. They are representing them very well. Again, it's about the culture. It's about the culture, especially when you're speaking to top management level guys, when you're speaking to HR people, it's about the culture. The next one is technical interview. This place, you can't English your way out, right? You have to know what you're doing, for example. But two ways, right? The first one is they tell you that we're going to monitor you on the call, and then you're going to write the code, which that one you have to know what you're doing. Second one is, see, we are going to send you over an assignment. I think that's the one I've always been involved in. I've never been on the call where somebody is saying do this, do this, do this, do this. So they send you over something, and then you have to fix it and send it back in 2 days or in 3 days, or even some do it in one day, right? For those who have been in DSN, I think I applied to DSN once. They did that sort of thing to me, and I submitted, right? So you need to be able to understand whatever it is that you've done, right? Even if you give AI, right, or you give Claude or whatever, right? You need to like be able to defend whatever you've put on. And I always say something when you're going to an interview, right? On your CV, wherever, right? You really have to be able to defend everything you write. I'm not a fan of lying on your CV. I mean, you can explain and expound on what you wrote or on what you did. You can, but never say you've done this when essentially you've not even done it, right? You can frame words in very good ways. You can frame word in expansive ways, but don't lie and say you've done this, and then when they say what is this, you cannot even speak to it at the least, right? So yeah, I think that's it with technical interview. Then the last one is competency-based interviews, right? Competency-based interviews, like I say, some people just take it as technical, some, and then competency-based interviews look like we want to, those who do it exclusively. What it looks like is we want to gauge how you think about business scenarios, right? Business occurrences, right? You're hearing questions like, let's say you're interviewing for an oil and gas position, but you're going to be in the data department. You're saying that, okay, how do you convince the manager of supply chain that we have to implement a particular decision, right? What are you going to say to the person? That's what competency based interview looks like, right? Your answer goes something like, see, data tells all the story, right? You're going to develop a dashboard that is going to indicate what is happening in the firm, what is going on fine based on indicators, and why we should do this. And then you're going to put some insights beside it just for the the manager to be able to understand how things are doing and why this is very important. Again, interview that's how competency-based interview is, right? They want you to think technically and say the results, right? Or say what you're going to do in situations like that. Technical interview, they want you to write the code, right, and send in something for them to review, after which you're going to defend. The competency-based says that we want to give you different business scenario decisions for you to think. And this is it, right? When you're doing competency-based interview, this is what I usually advise. You don't even need to know all the answer per se, but let them understand your thought process. Let them know where you are coming from and where you are going. It is very important, right? Especially when it comes to data. Data is all about how you think analytically, right? Let them see you picked it from point A, you're dropping it in point B. How are you going to fix that? How do you intend to do? What are you thinking? Why are you picking this? Why are you doing this? And I do it a lot. I just talk through the whole thing, saying, okay, if this is this, then I want this to be this. I want this to be this. This dashboard should be like this. This should be like this. This pipeline should be like this. It should be a self-healing pipeline. Should be this. Should be that. And then you want to talk through that position such that even at the end, when what you're saying is not like the exact answer they are looking for, they know that you have the capacity for independent thinking, which comes only by practicing whatever you say you've done, right? Thinking analytically doesn't just appear, right? It's something you must have done and done and done, deliberately practiced and practiced and practiced, because you've needed it, right? So those are like the 3 levels of interview. And the way to know the first level interview, the cultural interview, is that you're speaking to HR, right? HR will always be the one doing the cultural interview. Or top management level people, they'll be the one doing the top management interview or the cultural interview. That's one. Technical interview always be with your manager. If you're working with if you're going to be in data engineering and you're hearing that the person you're having interview with is the head of the data engineering team, you know you're likely going to do some things technical or competency based, right? Yeah, it's usually with the head of that department, right? And competency and technical can be a mix when the top, maybe the CEO now interviews you, wants to know who you are and then wants to know what you can do, especially if the CEO is data inclined, right? It's not just operations or business, it's data inclined. CEO wants to mix everything together. You know, CEOs don't come with, these are the questions I want to ask. No, they're not going to come with that. They just want to go with the flow. If it goes through technical, we go through that path. If it goes through cultural, we go through that path, because they believe that the HR and the manager must have vetted you, and what they just want is that hunch and that final slap to say that, see, okay, you guys can take this guy. I'm comfortable with him if you guys are comfortable with him. Then the last one is who are you online, right? Why so much that you are online doesn't mean you know what you're doing. People still want to know, right? You can be the loudest, but you don't even really know the job and what it entails, right? But people still really want to know who you are. And at least people would usually give you the benefit of doubt when they see what you can do until they speak to you. I think I've noticed that people give benefit of that. I say, okay, this person is a data analyst. Okay, bring the person in. At least we see it on the person's profile. They still want to give you the benefit of doubt. But I would even give you the benefit of doubt when they don't even know you. Nobody knows you. On your LinkedIn is like only nothing. It's just attended this so university. Nothing again. Nothing in your about page. Nothing in your. So yeah, I think we should at least the barest minimum have our portfolios, our stuff clear online. What do you do? What services can you offer? What stacks do you use? We are technical people. Not so much English. The things you do, the things you can do, right? Yeah. And I think the last one that I didn't put here would be certifications. And let me talk a bit before I go to certification on your CV. The reason why CV isn't so much here is I know CVs should be like very big deal, but I've learned that your CV is as good as the requirement. just carry the requirement and put it on your CV. You would scan through it, yes. You will go through application tracker, right? Once they say they need somebody that can use DBT 2+ years, if you put those things on your CV, it's going to find it and then it's going to pass you through to the next stage. The major thing is, can you speak to whatever it is on your CV? So maybe it's an arc, right? That once they release a job ad, you go to the requirements, this, frame the requirements, same with the words that they want you to use, put it there, put it in your summary, and then you're good to go. But the major thing is that when you're done, when you skimmed through that process, right, will you be able to answer the questions that come with it? Finally, right, on the certification, I previously didn't do the certification. Yeah, that's the word. I do not do certification so much. In fact, I had one of my very good friend, I don't know if he's here currently, say, Fermi, do the certifications. Do these certifications. I didn't do it because I always believe it is what I know, right? So I grind to learn coding, I grind to learn this, I grind to build this, I grind to build this. And then you're seeing roles that the roles that you want them to pay what they want, what you want them to pay, and they're saying, "Oh, Databricks certification, we need it." You know this thing. Why you guys disturbing me about this thing? Why are you guys stressing me? Until I have to go write some of those things, right? Until I have to go write them. I think that if you can, certification really gets your leg in the room. I assure you, like it really does help you get your leg in the room. And I think you should go for it. And if you do certification and you read it, I think you are going to know it. Those things. I remember that I was reading for the Databricks and on Microsoft databases, and I knew what I read because the thing I had to read to be able to answer those questions, right? And even though as much as the curriculum can be, if you read it and you study it very well, it's a very good way to understand what goes under the hood before just the UI, right? You know what goes under the hood, and I always administer people now. If you can, please go for it. Please go for it. If maybe there's voucher or you can get the money to do it, please do it, and it will then reach your profile. So at this point, I think that yes, I can take questions, and I hope that I've been able to do one or two. I've been able to do justice to strategies for winning interviews. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thanks so much, Babayemi. Really, this is really insightful, really insightful. So we'll go to questions. If you have questions here on the call, you can raise up your hands and ask a question. But we put out a form, and we got one question on the form, and the question was really around salary negotiation. So that was just how they put salary negotiation. I'm sure that's a part of the interview you did not talk about. So we'd like to hear your thoughts on how to go about salary negotiation. Oftentimes it's been seen as a part of interviews where you have to just, for some people, just keep quiet and take what you're given. Some people still an opportunity to negotiate your way upward and all that. So just open to hear your thoughts on what you think about that and how people can navigate that for technical interviews or technical roles as we are going for.
Okay, the salary is always a gray line. It's always a blurry line. Even the HR world in themselves are divided on how to go about salary negotiation. But this is what I'm going to say, right? First things first. There is a difference in somebody that has a current job and is negotiating for a salary and somebody that badly needs the job. You really need to know where you stand, right? So if I have a current job, right? If I'm negotiating for salary, I can decide to say that this job can go. If you can't give me 2.4, right, I won't take the job, right? Because I have other options. But if I don't have other options, is it wise to go like that? In the whole thing, this is what I'm going to say to you. Number one, prioritize yourself. Prioritize yourself, because whenever you accept that, you might not be able to renege on it. You might not be able to go back. That's one. Number two is, do not be afraid to ask questions, because your employers will give you all the job they can give you. Your JD will not, your JD never reduces, JD increases, it never reduces. So do not be afraid to ask questions. The third one is, if at any point you believe that, or you think that whatever they are offering you is not enough, do not be afraid to say that and this is it. Do not be afraid to say that I think this is not my worth currently. Can you give me this? Do not say, can you increase it? Nah, can you give me this? Like you want to land on a specific. You don't want to say, okay, they are saying they're offering you 2 million, right? But you know that 2 million is not enough, right? You're not saying, can you increase it? You know, 2,050,000 is an increase, but you don't say, I would, can I get, can we move upwards 2.5? Then they would be, then the whole negotiation starts, but you don't want to make it vague. When it comes to salary, you want to, I mean, get your word into the room. And then you get, when you're negotiating, again, it's not an investigation, right? It's not an investigation. When you say it and they are not agreeing, then the onus lies on you to reject or accept. But the point is, never, you should not talk because you're afraid. I think that I do not like regrets at all. I want to say everything that is in my mouth. I will say it, and then I know that, because at the end of the day, if you don't say it, you're now thinking, what if, and there are other positions too that you get into. Then, especially firms that do not really have structure, then you see that somebody in your level is earning like 300K more than you, right? And yeah, exactly. If you perish, you perish, but don't perish. So you should talk. You should really talk. And before you go, yeah, final thing, and I do it a lot. I ask my friends around, what is the salary looking like within the industry, right? Especially for roles like this. I know that it's different firm to firm, but there is usually what do I call it, an average, right? There's usually an average. Hey man, this, what do you think? Hey, this, what do you think? Hey, you always meet friends that I have friends that will tell you, hey, aim for very, very high. They'll bring it down, and some friends will tell you, just tell them this, and you're not reneging on it. So, but the point is, when you know your worth, you can be able to talk. But please, by all means, if you feel you're not going to be compensated very well, you should definitely talk. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that answer. I think this reminds me of something my mentor used to say, that the best time to look for a job is when you don't need a job, right? Because that's where you can negotiate as for a good price because you're not desperate. Chidima, your hand is up, so you can omit and ask a question.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Actually, my question lies on the technical and the competence part of it. Like now, you are a data engineering, but you don't really have an experience, like a hands-on experience as a data engineer. So you went for an interview and they asked you a question that you really don't have an understanding on, but you have been reading and then you have been learning, but maybe in that aspect, you have not really touched that aspect in your own learning zone. So like how can you technically answer that question in an interview, but on your own part you have not really, like, you don't really know what they asked you? Do you understand? Because you have never had any experience before and you're just trying to learn on your own, building pipelines and understand the concept that you have read and then you have worked on. But on that interview they asked you a question that you have not really touched on your own part. So how can you answer that kind of question in an interview?
Okay, thank you very much, Idima, and I think I can relate with you, because I kind of have one or two mentees, right? First things first is experience is different from theory, right? When you say you're reading, right? I think that, see, I do not think that you would hear something extremely very new. You can hear something that you can't be able to implement. You can hear something that you don't even know how to write the code. For example, if you hear TSQL and you've never used Fabric before, you're saying, what's TSQL? But you know that there is SQL there. If you're hearing Fabric and you're very serious with your data journey, you would have read something about it. Maybe you don't have opportunity to prepare. If you say you're a data engineer, you'd have heard one or two things about PySpark. You would have, especially because you're active on the data community, you're active for the fact that you're here. You would have heard something on DBT, you'd have heard something about transformation, you'd have heard something about architecture. I do not think that there would be one question that you've never heard anything about, except it is a very, very new concept. And I assure you, if it is a very, very, very new concept, even the HR knows that, or whoever is asking you knows that it's a very new concept. And this is what I would say to that. First things first is, I'm a big fan of reading very wide, reading very, very wide, just beyond. I even outside of the project I'm currently doing. I mean, I'm going to work in the morning. I try to read something. I'm at work. I try to read something totally unrelated. In fact, I go to my friend's house and steal or carry their books. Right. Point is, when you are asked something, you want to go through your database to see what is closest to whatever you've heard. If you hear TSQL, you want to talk about SQL, right? You want to talk about SQL and say that, see, TSQL is something you've probably heard of, but you're still in the process of using it and all of those things. Essentially, if you've never had an experience, I imagine that the work you're in, the interview you're doing, for you to be able to even get the interview needs someone that is interested in that particular role. And I think that if you can at least attempt to say something about whatever you are asked, I don't think that's the end of the road, because even we experienced folks even attempt to say something about what we are asked. I don't think everybody gets 100% of the answers, but over the course of the interview, I don't expect that they'll keep on asking you questions that you do not know. If that happens, then maybe you have to prepare very well. But I would say again that you want to speak to something, because most of the things in this data world is very, very related, right? Data analysts sometimes understand some things I do. I understand some things they do. They understand some things things like that. So can be able to just speak to it while also saying that, see, I know that this is currently an aspect I'm currently working on. Just admit that. I don't see a problem for me when I do interviews to admit that there are certain things I'm still trying to work on. I hope that gives some perspective.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Yemi, thank you so much. I think that's a really great answer. Quickly, I'll call on Madina. Your hand is up. You can unmute and ask a question.
Yeah, Oluwaferanmi, thank you so much. It's so insightful.
Yeah.
So, my question is, we know working remotely is time consuming, because especially those of us that we are still at our entry levels, we are still learning, trying to like understand this concept. So, how do we, working remotely is about giving results, right? Like you just find you have just 24 hours a day. You just find yourself working round the clock, and at the end of it, you are still on it. And you said you read so that you can be updated in the industry. You follow people so that you can stay updated, yes, so that you will not be left out. So how do you cope with time, with your work activities? Because the JD is sometimes for us as newbies, or what we like call junior data engineers or interns. Then for the second question, please, this is just a straight question. I want a straight answer. I don't want I don't know how you'll be able to answer this question. So as interns or junior data engineers, how much, or maybe you should give us range, because during interview, they should put this question straight to us. How much do you think we can offer you? Do you get? Yes, those are the questions they ask us. So we'd be like, we are still trying, you just want to learn, you want to start, start something and then get involved, not and learn in the job. So what's the salary range you think we can give to this during this phase, so that we'll not be like, oh, this person is too. So those are the two questions. I don't know if you get it. Thank you.
Yeah. I understand your question. Let me go with the first one. To be honest, learning technical things, I'm always very honest. It's quite hard. I remembered I learned Python, and when I was trying to learn it, my life surrounded it, like my whole life. I was going to wake up in the morning after prayers, was going to do Python, but like I had an insane schedule in the midnight. I was going to be learning it. I dumped movies, all of these things, just to be able to learn it. So I understand what you're saying, right? But you know what I'd say to you? It is that it will get to a point where the learnings are going to pay off, and your everything doesn't like revolve. You'll be able to find better ways to solve your problems keep coming, but you now find better ways to solve them, right? So that's what I'm just going to say to you on that. Don't keep learning. It can be draining, and it will be draining if you're just getting into corporate space and the data person. It can be draining, or maybe it will be draining based on how the firm is structured and the people you work with and all of those things, right? So you just have to like see through that phase, because when you've now read enough, or when you've learned enough, it becomes easier with time, right? Of course, not that the JD will reduce, but your efficiency would increase, right? Your efficiency would increase, and then you'd fix more problems faster, right? That's a senior dev. That's a senior dev. They fix problems faster. Not that they don't have problems, but they fix it faster. And when they see a problem, say, "Oh, I've seen this thing before. This is likely what the problem looks like." Remember the days of Stack Overflow, right? What you're doing with what you're dying to do with Stack Overflow, somebody just comes, write it in one line, and then that's your solution. So that's that. The second one, to be honest, yeah, I cannot give you this range. I know junior devs, and I'm serious. I say devs, junior data guys earning 600, and I know junior data guys earning 200. How do you want me to give you that base? But you see, industry matters, the place you work matters, and the salary structure of where you work matters, right? I do not for every I speak to people a lot, right? When it comes to Gemini Q, Stack Overflow. I speak to people a lot when it comes to salary negotiation, and I'm always like, before I say anything, I'm like, which firm, right? What do they do, right? How many people do they even hire, and what's their product, right? You want to have an idea of what the firm does before you can say, okay, let's ask for this, right? You don't just wake up and say 600K. What's the justification for asking for 600K? If you ask for 200K, are you not downplaying yourself and all of that? I know you want me to give you straight answer, but Madina, I don't even know where you work. I don't know what the place looks like. I don't know the industry. I don't know the sector. Me giving you a straight answer would be me hitting you on the leg, or would be me say. So if I say go and ask for 800, would it be fair? But somebody's getting 800 just when they are starting, right? So I don't know where you work, and possibly maybe you can even ask for 1 million where you're working, depending on it. But you need to know the sector. You need to know how much they pay. You need to research about the firm. Talk to people on LinkedIn. If you are here to have interview, talk to people on LinkedIn about it. People talk, right? When you're sampling a place, people talk, right? People give you an idea, right? So yeah, finally, even on the salary thing, there was a firm that were talking. I reached out to somebody. The person told me what he's earning. Right. Of course, I kind of knew the person outside of LinkedIn, but the person told me what he's earning. So based on that, I can now make my own deductions, and I can say, okay, you can do this, you can do that. But to say ask for this now, that wouldn't be fair. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kenny. Thank you so much. I'm sure this has been a great time for everyone, as has been for me. Really quite insightful, and a lot of learning to take out of it. Just before I let you go, I'll just give you some quick fire questions. You don't need to think about it, just do your own response for your preference. So first is Excel or Google Sheet?
Excel.
Okay. Tabs or spaces when coding?
Spaces.
Okay. If your career was a movie title, what would it be?
I don't watch movies that much, but maybe yeah, I don't really do movies, but I have to think about that because I can count the number of movies I've watched.
I know, right. Okay, so I'm getting to the end. Remote work or office?
Remote every day.
All right. Build from scratch or inherit a messy code base?
I want to build it from scratch. Don't kill me with your code.
Learn in public, but or stay low key.
I once believed in low key, but now learn in public. There are a lot of opportunities attached to that these days.
All right. Thank you so much, Babayemi. And thanks so much, everyone who has stayed till the end of this conversation. We have this session recorded,
Thank you.
and then we'll put it on the YDB YouTube.
Okay.
Next week, latest, you have it there, so you can rewatch. And then also connect with Babayemi on YouTube. I didn't know you had a YouTube channel. Nice. YouTube and all.
Yeah.
Twitter as well.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel, and I think the name of the YouTube channel is Oluwaferanmi with E at the back. Oluwaferanmi, then add E at the back. I can drop it in the
All right.
in the WhatsApp group.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. And I really do appreciate. We'll see you next month. Next month, we're talking about innovation with local LLMs. Next month, we'll be having join us on that session. As we get closer, we're going to share flyers as regards that conversation. So thanks so much, everyone. See you all next month as we keep getting better and building the ecosystem. All right. Bye for now.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.